Show. It is Thursday, November 10th, 2016. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. We have got a lot of stuff to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble, and ready to answer the phone when you call on in. Now then, right at the top of the stories here, we did get our WhatReallyHappened.com server back up and running properly overnight. It's working. It's still under hacker attack by Hillary's people, and I don't know if this is a tantrum or portends something darker, but every once in a while they're still piling on and trying to, well, have their little tantrums, as it were. Speaking of tantrums, all across America there are all these whining, crying liberal Democrats that are out there that the world isn't what they wanted it to be, and they're just having a really hard time about this whole thing, the fact that Hillary Clinton or didn't succeed stealing the election. And it really is getting out of control. Anti-Trump protesters marched through Portland, closing Interstates 5 and 84. And they're out there screaming, not my president, don't make excuses for racists, back off my uterus. Frankly, I wasn't interested in the first place. And Black Lives Matter. They're out there still pushing that whole thing. And it is getting violent out there. They literally had 6,000 people out there in Oakland causing a ruckus down in Los Angeles, blocking more roads. Madonna and Cher are out there. I'm rather surprised. I thought they were going to leave the country by now. Now, all of these events are being organized. This is not an organic grassroots movement. These are being organized by by MoveOn.org and various other George Soros-sponsored groups, and I don't know what he's doing, whether he's just angry that he invested all this money in the Hillary Clinton campaign and he's not going to get anything for it. But they're fanning this up all across the nation. The anti-Trump protesters are smashing windows, destroyed a police cruiser in the streets of Oakland. The Oakland mayor is literally out there having to explain why they can't stop the looting. These anti-Trump protesters have now devolved into a looting mob. Not exactly a positive public image for a group that claims to be taking a stand on behalf of democracy. They're out there just causing all this violence. There's a video of a group of Hillary supporters beating up somebody who voted for Trump and then stealing the guy's car. So I don't know what they're trying to accomplish, but they're not making themselves look very attractive or desirable or anything to the general public. They're being seen as thugs and crybabies. Now, we got a tweet from Austin, Texas, confirming these are not organic protests. They have pictures of the buses being used to bring people in and cause this civil disturbance. Now, I got an email from somebody who was down there in Sacramento looking at the protest for CalExit. California now wants to break off the United States because Donald Trump is the president. And apparently that protest was organized by MoveOn.org and YesCalifornia.org, which acknowledges they're a split-off group from MoveOn.org. They're another Soros organization. And here's what gets really interesting. They had applied for the permit to have the demonstration 2.5 months ago. So somebody laid these plans to have a ruckus just in case Hillary Clinton lost. And as is usually the case with all of these manufactured protests, they're clustering around the media trucks. They're not really marching through the streets and talking to the people. They're just forming crowds around the corporate media trucks so they can get their face on TV and make it look like there's a major movement here. Interestingly enough, there's an anti-Trump protest going on over in Boston. Why? Massachusetts went heavily for Hillary Clinton. Why are you bothering to have a protest there in Boston? It's not like anybody there voted for Trump, or if a handful, unless it was completely stolen here. More of Soros-sponsored social justice warriors are besieging the Trump Tower, and they're causing a ruckus over there. And as a side note, because Trump Tower is Donald Trump's residence until the inauguration, the FAA has declared a no-fly zone around that building. Now, normally on Manhattan, there's actually a ceiling, or rather actually a floor that you are not allowed to fly lower than, but now they have a do not approach horizontal barrier around Trump Tower the same way that they do around the White House itself. And by the way, one of these protesters that was on camera screaming about, Donald Trump has to step down, Hillary has to be, turned out was outed as a CNN cameraman. They grabbed one of their own cameramen and said, get on out there and make some statements. Down in New Orleans, and actually we're going to take a second here to do a shout out to our honor affiliates who are just rejoining the network. We're talking about this amazing violence, this organized campaign of violence across America to basically punish us all for not anointing Hillary our new empress. And over in New Orleans, they've actually vandalized public monuments there, spray-painted them with things like Die Whites Die, and they're out there chanting things like Black Power and Dismantle White Supremacy. And it looks like this may be where the fanning up of racial tensions to help Hillary may come back to haunt them, because now they've got a racially divided society. And it doesn't matter what Soros and MoveOn.org and all these other groups are trying to do with these crowds. It's turning into race riots. Now, if they get enough of them, that can justify Obama declaring martial law. Maybe that's what they're aiming at. And by the way, do you remember when white racists protested Barack Obama's 2008 victory and tore up cities all across America? Neither do I, because it didn't happen. Now, again, back on CNN, they have one of these liberal little wimps out there just crying and melting down and begging Hillary to unconcede. We can still find a way to put you in there. A little more alarming, a Latina woman was out there saying it's time for a revolution. People have to die to get Hillary in there. And a lot of this violence is by the Latinos, the illegal immigrants. They were all promised if they snuck into the United States of America, registered to vote, which is illegal, voted for Hillary, which is illegal, voted multiple times for Hillary, which is illegal, they would get amnesty and citizenship, and now they're waking up to the realization it's not going to happen. And that's why they're out there at the forefront of these riots. They want Trump out, they want Hillary in, because they want their green card, they want their permission to come into the United States of America and live off the American taxpayers. Over on Twitter, there are all these Hillary supporters openly calling for the assassination of Donald Trump. And I would like to remind everybody out there, as Donald Trump is now the president-elect, threatening his life is a Class E felony. Foreigners who threaten his life are subject to immediate deportation. So let's get the INS and ICE down there and start rounding these people up and flinging them over the border. They are committing crimes and violence, vandalism, looting. This is Hillary's supporters, criminals. She was the queen of the criminal society, and the criminals are rioting. Now, there's a very bizarre circumstance going on, because here in the United States of America and also up in Canada, they've been using the public schools to propagandize the children in the hope that the children would go home and convince their parents to vote for Hillary Clinton. And they filled these kids' heads with all of this horrible stuff that was going to happen if Donald Trump won the presidency. And he won the presidency, and now all these children are flipping out. They're freaking out because they've been told that all these terrible things are going to happen to them because Trump won the presidency, and now they're dealing with all these screaming, hysterical kids and wondering what to do because they intentionally traumatized them to support Hillary Clinton. And now it's turned into just this huge, huge mess. They created this situation, and now they're out there, oh, what are we going to do with all these screaming? I don't know, give them another pill. Now, all over the corporate media, you're seeing all these banners about how Donald Trump's electoral vote count stands at 279. But digging into the New York Times down to where it's keeping track of the final counts. A lot of these media outlets have stopped counting. You know, Trump is the president. We don't have to update the totals. But getting into the New York Times, where these outlying precincts are still coming in and some of these decisions are still being made, Donald Trump now has 306 electoral votes to Clinton's 232. That's important to remember. Okay? Because apparently diehard Democrats are now saying that they're going to go after the Electoral College. They're going to convince the Electoral College to go with the will of the people and go with, you know, who won the popular vote, which was Hillary Clinton. At least that's what we're being told. And if they try that, that will trigger a revolution. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind. First of all, Hillary's 200,000 edge in the popular vote, which is made up of illegal immigrant, stolen computer, and dead people votes, is just 0.25% of the total number of people who voted in this election. That's hardly a mandate to undermine democracy. You need to keep that in mind. And the other aspect is that looking at these electoral numbers from the New York Times, you would have to have 38 electors who would reverse their votes to vote for Hillary against their state voters. Now, 29 states have laws requiring the electors to vote with the state's choice. Most of those states are states Trump carried. Now, looking at what's going on here, we need to remember something. Because of the way the rules are set up, candidates run their campaigns just to get a simple majority in a state, 51%, at which point they get the electors. It's a waste of time and money to do any further campaigning in the state past that. And so they organize their campaigns to play to the rules that are in effect, which is the Electoral College. Whether you agree with that or not, and I'll be the first to admit, I think it's an outdated system, but it is the rules we're all playing by. So candidates tailor their campaigns to win a slim margin in the states, and then they move on. But in states that traditionally vote for one party or the other, it is common to get large surpluses of what are essentially unnecessary votes for the Electoral College along the way. Now, Donald Trump won by the rules everyone is supposed to be playing by. And the last time I checked, you know, Hillary, her popular vote margin is slim to the point of transparency. Now, the rules are the rules, and the sore losers don't get to change the rules after the game is over just because they don't like the results. All right, we're going to start taking some phone calls. Dustin in New Jersey, aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Hey, you know, CNN and MSNBC, they're really inflaming the protesters because it's all orchestrated. There's a report out of Texas. There was 7, I don't know if you reported on this yet, 7 busloads of protesters being brought in.
Yes, we saw that. We got the pictures of that.
Yeah, I mean, but CNN, they were saying, oh, she won the popular vote in a landslide. It was only like 200,000 or less.
That's not a landslide. That's a pebble.
I know. But they're trying to create this image, you know, and they're just going to keep inflaming people, you know, until the winter comes and all these people will go home.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what they think they're going to do. Now, the good news is that the desperate Democrats actually put up a petition at the White House petition website demanding that the electors be told to go with the popular vote instead of the state votes. So far, it's only got 9,000 signatures, which is microscopic. When you look, it's got to have 100,000 signatures. It's less than 10% of the way there. But again, what they're trying to do is change the rules after the game is played because they don't like the way it came out.
But if you look at, like, Van Jones of CNN, he's like, I don't know what to tell my son in the morning. I'm like, tell him to get up, brush his teeth, and go to school.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Donald Trump won the presidency by the rules we've all agreed to play by. And everybody who's in the streets saying they don't like it are acting and behaving like criminals, and frankly, they should be treated as criminals. when they're out there looting and committing vandalism and attacking people and everything. These are just simple criminals, and let's treat them that way.
The problem is, though, Mike, they're brought up, a lot of these from Berkeley are brought up to be, like, you know, like you have on your website, special snowflakes, so they can't handle rejection or losses.
Well, they'd better learn. They'd better learn. I mean, I remember that was one of the big failings of the feminist movement in the 1990s, where they were trying to teach women, you can be successful, you can go on out and be successful, and what they didn't prepare women for was failure. And women were going on out there and getting into the executive suite, and a lot of them were failing for exactly the same reason the men right next to them were failing, but they weren't psychologically prepared to deal with that, so they started screaming, it's the evil male patriarchy, it's not my fault, the men are conspiring against me, and it just went completely crazy. And it's great to encourage people to go on out and be successful, but at the same time, you've got to prepare them for the fact that they may fail. They're going to be fail. There's only a few people at the very, very top.
But it's just funny how this is going to, in a way, this is going to backfire because the people who are trying to get home from work are Democrats. So they're all blocking traffic and smashing stuff. They're just embarrassing themselves in the long run.
They really are. I mean, the public image they're putting on, I mean, if they'd had peaceful demonstrations and everything, they could say, oh, there's obviously a grassroots movement. Okay, well, where were these people on Election Day then? And
yeah, they weren't in line to vote.
And the situation is that as this thing starts to unravel, because of all of the early in the year fanning up of racial tension, it is going to turn into a petard, because the public is getting an image of these Hillary Clinton supporters as being criminals. And like attracts like. So many people already know that Hillary Clinton is herself a criminal. It almost makes sense that her followers are going to behave like criminals, and they should be treated like criminals. It's time to send the police or the National Guard in there and start putting these people in prison. This is not an expression of their First Amendment right to protest. This is smashing windows, burning up cars, assaulting people, committing acts of vandalism, defacing public monuments. That's not covered by the First Amendment.
Burning the flag. Hey, Mike, if you're real quick.
Now, burning the flag is covered. I'm sorry. Burning the flag is covered by the First Amendment. I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh, I don't know. Hey, Mike, real quick on Paul Joseph Watson's site, he's got a video of them crying with baby sounds in the background. It's great.
Yeah, we got that on the front page of WhatReallyHappened.com as well, and it is. That's the image we need to put out about these people, sore losers and crybabies, because that's exactly what they are. I mean, if it had gone the other way, you wouldn't have seen Trump supporters going on out there and smashing windows. We have too much self-respect. We're not the criminals in this society. Hillary's supporters are the criminals, the illegal immigrants. She based her campaign.
The media's going to turn it around, though. They're going to say it's Trump's fault. He needs to come to the Democratic side and do something for them.
Well, I'm sure the media will say that, but nobody's listening to the media anymore. They drove the final stake into their own chest with all those bogus polls going into the election. Nobody's listening to the corporate media anymore. You know, people are going to look at those videos. They're going to look at those videos. They're going to decide for themselves, Hillary Clinton supporters are a bunch of thugs and criminals, and no, we are not going to give this nation over to frenzy.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch to Steve in Massachusetts. Steve, I may have to take you through the commercial break. What's on your mind?
Okay, that's fine. Dustin is right. They fueled this, and they've been fueling it for the past year, where we see Black Lives Matter, cops killing black people, the whole Confederate flag. It's getting to the point where it's not quite there yet, where they're trying to make this into a racist, where white people are becoming racist.
They may be trying to go for a color revolution. Like they've done in all these other countries, to bring down our entire government and clear the decks for a new puppet regime, which in all probability will be centered on Empress Hillary I. And, obviously there's a lot of money and media influence and power behind these riots. This didn't just spring up all by itself. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And have you noticed that Hillary Clinton has not gone on TV to tell these people to stop rioting, to stop beating people up, to stop smashing windows, to stop burning cars and looting stores. Not a word from Hillary Clinton or any of her people to try and calm this situation down. You just think about that for a little bit. We're going to go back to Steve in Massachusetts. Steve, what else did you have to say?
I just want to say that I have some black friends at work, and they know I voted for Trump, and I know they voted for Hillary, and I still speak to them and all, but I just noticed there's a tension now. It's not quite the same, the relationships that I used to have. And I think the globalist plan is maybe get to the point where it's going to be civil fighting between the blacks and the whites to the point where they're going to get ready to collapse the system. And when they do, they'll have a civil war. And instead of people focusing on the banks that collapse the system, they're going to be focused on fighting each other. And maybe that's their plan.
This could be the start of an attempt to bring, like I said before the commercial, this could be the beginning of a plan to bring a color revolution to the United States to destroy what's left of our republic and establish a true dictatorship. I mean, certainly that's been Soros' pattern in all the other countries he's gone into, whether it was Ukraine or various other places. He was trying to do that in Russia but got kicked out. But yeah, I mean, we know these riots are being organized. We know they're being funded. Somebody's paying for all those buses. So this is being done deliberately. And if the media is fanning up the tension, then obviously there is something in play right now. All right, Steve, we're going to let you go here. We got a bunch of calls, and then I got to get back to the news here. We're going to go a lot lighter on phone calls today. I actually got emails from listeners saying less phone calls, more Michael, and so we're going to go along with that. Meanwhile, though, Keith in Montana, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Good to hear you in there, Mike.
Thank you.
Hey, I sent you an email. It's called Gigapixel on the subject title.
Yes, I did. I saw that.
Okay, yeah, like I say, I was talking to my uncle earlier there, and he was really chatting about all this racism that this Trump is causing there. And I says, you can go to that Gigapan site and use your mouse and the scrolling portion of it and scroll all through Obama's inauguration there and see all those white racists that are there, I think that camera goes out a half a mile, and you can draw right up on their faces. You can see the snipers on the roofs, and, I mean, you can see everything.
Yeah, it is an amazing image, and I thought about putting it back out there. But yeah, it's like I said, when when Barack Obama won election in 2008, there wasn't rioting in the streets. In fact, I don't even remember the last time we had a presidential election where there was rioting in the streets after it was all over. I mean, I know we had rioting, in Chicago before, the election, during the conventions, but I can't remember a single time that I've been alive where after the election was over and a winner had been declared, there was rioting in the streets. And all of this is illegal. It's incitement to violence. In fact, much of it is a violation of the USA Patriot Act. Violence to coerce a change in the political system is a violation of the USA Patriot Act. Why aren't the anti-terror people out there handcuffing these folks?
Yeah. I have one other thing for you, too. I remember Cynthia McKinney when she was, I think it was on Fars News, Press TV or something. But anyway, she had mentioned the fact about how Congress has to swear that oath to Israel. Anyway, I just happened to, one of your other listeners there, Ivan there on YouTube, sent me a video last night, and it's Louis Farrakhan, who's describing the same thing about how to be friends, they have to, again, make this oath and have all their meetings, their congregational things like that monitored by the Israelis. And it's just a total usurping of everything.
It is.
Total control.
All right, Keith, got to let you go. Got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. We're going to go to Sal Jr. in Colorado. Sal, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Michael. I can give you a possible reason why Hillary hasn't made any announcement to stop this. there are a number of websites stating that she has filed for divorce in New York.
Okay, well, that would certainly keep her occupied. You know, it just occurred to me, I went back and I looked at her so-called concession speech, the one that she was an hour and 8 minutes late getting to, and looking at her face, I don't see defeat there. And I keep thinking about that cryptic comment John Podesta made, "We're not done yet." And when you look at that with all of this escalating violence and vandalism across the country, it does look like they're trying a Hail Mary pass to try and literally steal the country through thuggery. But I don't think it's going to work. When you look at all those whining, crybaby, liberal Hillary supporters, does she really think she's going to march into Washington, D.C. and take over the city with those behind her against a group of conservative, serious individuals, Second Amendment supporters? I don't think it's going to happen.
And there's also another thing, change.org have a petition out to make Hillary the president on December 19th, getting people to sign this petition to have the people from the Electoral College vote for Clinton.
Yeah, but it's only got 9,000 signatures so far, and again, the 29 of the states have laws saying that the electors must go with the will of the people. Plus, don't forget, up in Washington State, which went for Hillary, their electors are already saying under no circumstances will they vote for Hillary Clinton. They were Bernie Sanders supporters. So it's an uphill fight. Looking at the numbers, she's got to get 38 electors to flip up. That's never happened in history. And by the way, no presidential election outcome has ever been changed by a faithless elector. Usually faithless electors are doing what they do as a protest vote only, but it doesn't actually change the outcome.
Yeah. Oh, that's all I had.
All right, thanks an awful lot here. We're going to let you go and switch over to John in Barbados. John, welcome back to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Thank you for having me on again. Well, my opinion, if you want it, the DNC, J.B. Wasserman Schultz, and Hillary Clinton did it to themselves. If they'd had an honest primary system, Bernie Sanders would have won, and we could be looking at President-elect Bernie Sanders at this point in time.
That was really a major miscalculation by Hillary Clinton, that they could steal the nomination for Hillary and Bernie Sanders' Democrats would vote for her. They didn't. They deserted to Donald Trump.
If I was a Bernie Sanders supporter now, I would leave the Democratic Party. I would deregister. I would go somewhere else.
Well, I'll tell you, if this rioting in the streets gets any worse, we're going to see the entire Democratic Party brought down. Nobody's going to want to be associated with this public image of the Democrats right now.
Well, not thinking people, anyway. But there was a piece on RINF, and they were talking about this particular instance of how Bernie was cheated out of the nomination. And you know, he could have given Donald Trump probably a harder run for his money. But I mean, I replied to it, but I don't think I can reply on air because I wasn't very kind. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at all these liberal revisionists and what have you, crying in and weeping everywhere. I looked at the two rallies, well, not rallies, the acceptance and concession speeches, and looking at the Trump, they were all neatly dressed people of all races, blacks, whites, Asians, white Europeans, everything.
Yes.
You look at the Hillary rally, and they were all weeping females and gays, the LGBT crowd.
Yeah, I mean, Hillary didn't even succeed in getting the blacks and Hispanics onto her campaign. The demographic breakdown of the votes, and even a lot of women didn't fall for her nonsense. And to be very honest, all this talk about Hillary winning the popular vote, I don't think she did. I think the it's estimated the Democrats registered 1.8 million dead people to vote, and I don't think they did it without intending to use those registrations. So we're actually looking at shaving at least 1 million votes off of Hillary's popular vote total.
Well, I think the old bug was carrying too much baggage with her. I mean, the WikiLeaks emails just exposed the criminality, the fraud, the nonsense surrounding Hillary.
No question about that. I mean, everybody's coming on out and saying, oh, Trump's going to disappoint you. Trump's going to disappoint you. I really don't care. I wasn't campaigning for Donald Trump. I was campaigning against Hillary Clinton because it's time for that Clinton-Bush duopoly to fade into history. And now that Trump has won the election, they're out there literally threatening riots. They're threatening to burn the nation down if we don't give it to Empress Hillary I.
Well, I think a really good move would be to put Julian Assange in as the U.S. press secretary. At least we get the truth.
I don't know that Assange would take the job for the exact same reasons that I would. We have our own minds. We're going to say what we think is going on. We're not very good at being ventriloquist dummies, and that's the primary requirement to be anybody's press secretary, is the ability to stand there with your hair on fire and insist you cannot smell smoke. So, John, I'm going to let you go here because I got a lot of news to get through. We're going to close the phone lines. I actually got emails from listeners saying, I'm taking too many phone calls and I need to do more talking, so we're going to go with the flow here. And getting on to the news here. Over at the Huffington Post, if you were reading that, you might be forgiven for thinking that the election still has not happened. They're still campaigning for Hillary Clinton. The pro-Hillary, anti-Trump screed is still going on, not just at the Huffington Post, all over the place. It's like they're trying to pretend the election has not happened yet. And whether they're focusing on the Electoral College December 19th, or if they're looking to start a color revolution, it is very obvious that John Podesta meant what he said when he said, we're not done yet. And apparently Hillary and her supporters are willing to be criminals, willing to destroy the nation, willing to destroy the republic in order to keep their grasp on power and your wealth. Now, everybody is looking for somebody to blame for Hillary Clinton's defeat. The latest one is coming out of New York Mags, basically saying it's all the fault of Facebook. It's all the fault of Facebook, and we've got to start controlling social media, and so we can suppress ideas that the rulers don't agree with. Forgetting, of course, that Facebook was pro-Hillary, anti-Trump all along. They were caught censoring posts critical of Hillary Clinton. So was Twitter. But they're just thrashing around trying to find some way they can say, oh, the election really didn't count. Too many people were cheating. They're back to trying to claim that Putin was tinkering with the election. Putin hacked into the election machines. Oh, really? Then why were all those election machines favoring Hillary Clinton? We've all seen the video. Push a button for Donald Trump, Hillary lights up. How do you get from there to Putin is trying to rig the elections for Donald Trump? You really cannot do that. Now, Bernie Sanders supporters are out there, and they're representing a somewhat better, more mature face of the Democratic Party, saying it's time for the DNC to accept responsibility. They blew it. They blew it by cheating the primaries and destroying the credibility of the democratic process and the Democratic National Committee. They blew it by alienating Bernie Sanders supporters and driving them into the Trump camp. And the reality is that if the Democratic Party is looking for somebody to blame for this devastating loss, they have only to look in a mirror. But they can't look in a mirror. It's got to be somebody else. It's got to be somebody else. And out in Hollywood, it's almost embarrassing for me to admit I used to work in that town because we're seeing all these people out there crying and whining, I want to quit life, and they're all all these people who said they were going to leave the country, and apparently they're still here, but they're out there on Twitter saying, this is a disaster, and they're just moaning and groaning, and frankly, at this point, if I were actually following these people on Twitter, I would unfollow them. I've had it with all the whining. I've had it with all the crying. Hillary lost, Donald won, according to the rules everybody agreed to play by at the beginning. Hillary Clinton agreed to play by these rules for her campaign, and she lost. Now, Maureen Dowd is out there thrashing around saying, oh, it's impossible to absorb, what's happened there. Starbucks CEO Schultz is stunned. All the studio executives, they were absolutely convinced Hillary was going to win, and all those big celebrities that held those $100,000 per couple fundraisers, all their friends are now calling up and saying, can we have a refund? We got gypped on that whole thing. So we had all those celebrities who said they were going to leave the country. I think we ought to hold them to their word. And I'll tell you why. Very, very pragmatic, benign reason. Imagine how many homeless American citizens we could house in those huge celebrity mansions. I think that's a reason to go on out there. Meanwhile, we're hearing from Canada more and more resistance to the idea of American liberals coming up there to live. I love this one comment from a citizen in Ottawa. I feel really sorry for the American liberals, but the Canadian economy just can't support them. After all, how many art history majors does one country need? All righty. Now, moving on. Samantha Bee knows who's to blame for Hillary Clinton's defeat. It's the white people who ruined America. It's the white people. It's all their fault. It's amazing. Jennifer Lawrence is out there playing the woman card. Hillary Clinton lost because she's a woman. That's the only reason. The evil male patriarchy is to blame. Now, Jennifer Lawrence at one point actually predicted the world would come to a complete end if Trump won. But she's out there now saying Hillary Clinton lost only because she's a woman. Really, Jennifer ought to look at Marine Le Pen, who looks like she's about to win the presidency of France, and she's a woman as well. And all of these people seem to forget Hillary's history. Benghazi, the private email server, cattle futures trades, travel office firings, Chinagate, dead bodies. It's got nothing to do with Hillary Clinton being a woman. I got sick and tired of all these liberals coming, oh, you just can't stand a woman president. And I said, I don't have a problem with a woman president. I have a problem with this particular individual being president. Because of the long crimes, corruptions, and the untrustworthiness factor, which even Hillary's own supporters say, yeah, that's a big one. Michael Moore is out there ranting and raving. He apparently wants to organize an insurrection against Donald Trump. And one of the things he wrote here is, must commit right now to a vigorous fight, including civil disobedience if necessary, which will block any and all Donald Trump Supreme Court nominees who do not meet our approval. We demand the Democrats in the Senate aggressively filibuster any nominees who support Citizens United or who oppose the rights of women, blah, 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 blah. This is non-negotiable. Well, Mr. Moore, much of what you're proposing in your little screed is a violation of the USA Patriot Act. You don't get to approve the Supreme Court justices. That's a perk of the job of the president. And it's just amazing. Now, David Stockman has a good observation about what's been going on. American voters just fired their ruling elites. That is exactly what we just did. And the ruling elites are in a panic, and who knows what evil they're capable of to try and regain power and authority over us. Steve Bannon over at Breitbart was saying the forgotten men and women who are the backbone of this country have risen up, and he's correct about that. If you want a simple explanation for what went wrong, it's because the ruling elites trivialized us. They didn't think we were important anymore. We were just numbers and tallies and workers and all the rest of that. We didn't have any effect whatsoever. Yeah, we did. We did. And I think if Soros keeps on pouring money into these anti-Trump protests, what he's actually going to do is destroy the Democratic Party. And we'll be a one-party nation, and I don't want us to go that way because that's what happened to the Soviet Union. Everybody is now talking about the Trump effect. Oh, what a horrible example we have set for the rest of the world, where the people of a nation stood up and overcame the rigged elections to choose somebody we wanted. It's giving those people in other countries bad ideas. And now all of a sudden, many of the elites in Europe are getting very, very nervous. First, there was Brexit, where an overwhelming public landslide overcame election fraud. Now we've got Donald Trump, where an overwhelming public landslide overcame election fraud. And all of a sudden, all around the world, the people of nations are standing up and saying, hey, an overwhelming public landslide can overcome rigged elections, and we can do it here. And that's got the political elites just their knickers in a twist, going to drop their little crystal goblet of cognac. European leaders are saying part of the problem has been the ever-growing arrogance of the political elite themselves towards ordinary people. And that is a big part of the backlash. There are now elections coming up in Italy, Austria, France, Netherlands, and Germany, in which they're now saying there could be a populist revolt against the established order, and that could actually be the end of the European Union itself. Even over at the United Nations, they're running around in circles and screaming, it's the end of the world as we know it. The people have chosen their own ruler. That can't be allowed to stand. Well, it's in the Constitution. Well, we got to do something about that. We're supposed to pick the leaders, not the people. What's wrong with you? Just going to run your own country for yourself. That's not part of the New World Order. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm America. Welcome back to the show here, and I'm looking at this article from the Duran.com, basically saying the same thing I am. George Soros is beginning a color revolution in America to tear down what is left of our republic and replace it with a dictatorship, as he has worked to do in so many other countries. So, whether he's going to succeed or not, we'll see if his protests have legs or not. But frankly, I think the police of the United States of America, who are always eager to crack the skulls of law-abiding citizens, ought to be treating these anti-Trump protesters as the criminals they are. They're committing acts of vandalism. They're burning up police cars. They're breaking windows. They're engaging in looting. These are all crimes. Not to mention which the entire protest itself is a violation of the USA Patriot Act. The use of violence or threat of violence to coerce a change in the political system is a crime under the USA Patriot Act. Police officers, do your duty. I'm hurling the defy at you. All right, now, as you're probably already aware, leaders around the world are having to make nice with the new incoming Trump administration. A lot of them are having to eat a little bit of crow because of negative comments they made about Donald Trump in the past. Over in Ukraine, politicians there are going through social media trying to delete their old posts that were critical of Donald Trump, in which they called him dangerous, marginal, complete idiot, and clown. Not exactly diplomatic language, but it doesn't really matter in the age of the Internet. Once you put something out like that, it's out. And I'm sure Donald Trump is going to know exactly what these people that he's going to be dealing with think of him. British politicians are having to swallow down some of their comments about Donald Trump as well. Now then, now that the DDoS attacks have stopped on the WikiLeaks server, information is now coming out that was supposed to come out before the election, including information that proves premeditation to evade security and public records acts by Hillary Clinton. And this involves communications with Colin Powell. There's your intent to do wrong, Mr. Comey. Now, as I mentioned before, just because the election is over, and even though Hillary Clinton lost, she's not out of trouble. Our work continues, and I've already reposted to WhatReallyHappened.com my article on whether Hillary was actually betraying the United States of America while Secretary of State. And it is a legitimate question to ask based on the 1996 Chinagate scandal, where then-President Bill Clinton was authorizing the sale of very sensitive technology to China over the objection of the Pentagon and the intelligence agencies in exchange for donations to his re-election campaign. More about this when we come back from station identification. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2 here, and we're talking about Hillary the spy, and this is an issue we cannot afford to let go away. Back in 1996, then-President Bill Clinton authorized the sale of very sensitive technology with military applications to China over the objection of the defense establishment and the intelligence agencies. And he started getting donations from, first of all, the companies that were making money selling that technology to China, and then from Chinese-American citizens who were being used as cutouts for money coming directly from China. It was called the Chinagate scandal. Congress was holding hearings, but unfortunately a computer crash destroyed the documents that were under subpoena at the time. So, it is very reasonable to ask if Hillary Clinton might have been selling U.S. secrets to foreign interests using her weak private email server to deliver the information and her charitable foundation to collect and launder the payments. It is a reasonable question to ask. And the silence on this issue from the government and the media, even to try and ridicule it, is quite telling, in my opinion. But like I said, the fact that the election is over doesn't mean Hillary's problems are going away. We're going to keep on pushing on all of this stuff. Now, amazingly enough, now that it looks like Hillary Clinton is not going to get the White House unless she leads an armed insurrection and steals it, ABC News actually came on out and did a report on how Hillary Clinton was receiving big donations for special favors. Remember, one of the things that came out of WikiLeaks was that these foreign governments who were donating to the Clinton Foundation did so in the full expectation they would get favors from Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. That's pay for play. It's corruption. It's illegal. Now, do you remember the missing CEO of the Clinton Foundation, Eric Braverman? And he resigned as the CEO. He apparently had gone to some of the people in the media saying that this thing is rotten, follow the money. Then he disappeared. The next thing that we heard was he was applying for asylum in Russia. And the latest report we have here right now is he's in FBI custody and he is cooperating. So the email, possible espionage aside, Hillary is still in hot water over that Clinton Foundation. The FBI is investigating. The IRS is investigating. It's not over yet. Now, the other day we were talking about whether or not Barack Obama could use Gerald Ford as a precedent and issue a blanket pardon for Hillary and all of her associates, even though they have not yet been charged and convicted of a crime. And apparently it is being discussed. We're seeing a story out of IntelliHub where sources inside the White House are saying that Obama will not rule out a Clinton pardon. It's not out of the question. So they're talking about it already. Now, following that, of course, as you know, we had Trump visit the White House today, and they had a talk in private, and Obama came out with this comment. This is in Breitbart, saying that they hope Donald Trump will not prosecute Hillary Clinton for political revenge. And Obama is saying there's a tradition in America of not using the justice system to enact revenge on a political opponent. Well, how about somebody who has flat out committed a crime, like treason or espionage or corruption? The fact that you lost to somebody does not isolate you from prosecution. It's a ridiculous statement for Obama to make, but the reason he's making it is very, very simple. Okay? He's already signaled that a pardon of Hillary Clinton is possible, but Barack Obama does not want to have to do that because it would be tantamount to admitting Hillary is guilty, as well as be a black stain on Obama's legacy, which is already not polishing up all that well to begin with. So Obama is looking for some kind of a way to get Donald Trump to agree that the lid will be kept on a certain espionage and corruption scandal so that everyone can go home happy. Trump could very easily say, well, you know, I'm not really interested in revenge, and then take office and say, but I am interested in prosecuting real crimes. If he puts in Trey Gowdy as the Attorney General. And remember, Donald Trump did promise his supporters these crimes were going to be properly investigated. And he can't go back on that promise to the American people. And that may force Obama to issue a blanket pardon. But if Obama does that, it's essentially admitting Hillary's guilty of something, but we're not going to let you see what it is. That's what a pardon before being charged and convicted means. They did something, you can't know what it is. We're going to do a shout out now to our honor affiliates who are rejoining the network. We're still talking about politics and corruption and cover-up. Joe Arpaio, America's toughest sheriff, unfortunately lost his re-election bid. He's been in the sheriff's office for 6 terms in Arizona, and he was viewed as one of the good guys, and somehow or other he lost his current election. He's now out of office in Arizona. He was certainly opposed by Obama and the Obama administration because Sheriff Joe Arpaio wanted to enforce the immigration and border laws in Arizona. He was one of the staunchest supporters of saying, we have a right to control our borders with Mexico. And so he was definitely opposed by the Obama machine. Meanwhile, over in France, impeachment process has started for French President Hollande for disclosing classified information to journalists. Now, his approval rating is 4%, and he's looking at impeachment for disclosing classified information to journalists. I have to wonder what is the penalty for disclosing classified information to foreign governments. Because here in the United States of America, it appears to be nothing. Just go on, sell our secrets to foreign governments. We don't care. And as I mentioned before, it is looking more and more like in the next election, President Marine Le Pen may win the presidency. And that's just going to pour salt on Hillary Clinton's wounds because Marine Le Pen is a woman. And she's looking very strong to win election. Of course, Marine Le Pen isn't carrying all that huge bundle of scandals that Hillary Clinton is. All right, let's turn to the war zones, emphasis on the plural. There's a lot going on over there that's not being covered in the American corporate media. Apparently, Kurdish YPG is clashing with Turkey-led forces. And what's really interesting is the Syrian Army's Tiger Forces and the Destart Hawk Brigades have made a series of attacks in the Minyan area, liberating about 90% of it from Jabhat Fatah al-Sham and its allies. So this is all taking place in western Ghouta. The Syrian forces are taking control over the road there. And bit by bit, they're pushing back in to take back their country. Now, there's something very revealing going on here. The Russian foreign minister reports up to 6,000 gunmen trying to attack eastern Aleppo. It's a counterattack. And it's a continuation of the fight by these U.S.-backed operatives against the legitimate government of Syria and Russia, whom Syria has asked for assistance. Now, the big issue over in Syria is the number of civilians being killed. And the U.S. has admitted killing 64 civilians with their airstrikes in Syria. And, 64 just isn't all that many. I mean, mistakes happen, the fog of war. It's really, you're just being picky if you worry about civilians being killed in Syria. Unless, of course, you're a family member of those people being killed. The Russians are saying that, in point of fact, the U.S. airstrikes are killing thousands of civilians, not just 64. at which point the U.S. military has come on out and said, all right, it was more than 64. We lied about the 64. We've killed 119 civilians. But 119, it's really such a small number, and you people are just being picky over 119 civilian casualties. Now, Bashar al-Assad has made an interesting comment saying, we are in a time that will determine the future of the world. That's always true to some extent, no matter where you are in history, but certainly right now, with the potential for a nuclear world war hovering over on the horizon, it's certainly true. And we know that Hillary was in favor of war. I mean, she's declared war on the streets of America right now. They're starting a war in the streets of America with her supporters with all this rampaging violence. And Donald Trump doesn't want to go the war agenda. And however this works on out, the ramifications for the future will be immense. Now, as you know, there's a Russian naval group in the Mediterranean off the coast of Syria lending support to operations in Syria to basically get these U.S.-backed terrorists to go home. And they had a little bit of a kerfuffle because one of the Russians' anti-submarine assets had to chase away a Dutch submarine which was spying on them and which got a little too close, where they felt there was actually possibly a danger of a collision. And so they had to chase it away. The subtext for this is that apparently the Dutch submarines aren't very good because the Russians had detected it and were watching it all along. Another Russian diplomat is saying the humanitarian crisis in Mosul is deteriorating. Yes, any place on earth the U.S. has gone in to kick out a democratically elected government and impose puppet rule, the humanitarian situation turns into junk. And apparently the Russians have received a communication from the United Nations asking for there to be a continued pause for the humanitarian pause and humanitarian corridor. Russia is going along with it grudgingly because they understand that the United States uses the humanitarian corridor and the pause to rearm and resupply their pet terrorists in places like Aleppo. Now, there's an article that came out from Russia Insider that really kind of nails where we are and how dangerous it is. The U.S. is playing a game of chicken on the Russian, Iranian, and Chinese borders, and this is how wars start. Now, we know the United States wants wars. Or at least the current regime does. They're just trying to figure out some way to make it look like the other side started it so that we, the American people, will believe we are the aggrieved party and we have a moral right to go on out and commit atrocities against these other people. And by the way, that's a characteristic we're actually seeing among Hillary's supporters in the streets of America. They're going on out acting like they have a moral right to be doing what they're doing because they're feeling that the American people should have agreed with them about electing Hillary. And the fact that we disagreed with them gives them the moral right to go on out and commit these acts of violence and atrocity. And no, it doesn't, actually. And just as this game of chicken in Russia, Iran, and China threatens war, Hillary's minions in the streets of America, we could see a civil war break out. And that's going to be a problem for the Democrats, who tend to not like guns or have guns or know how to use guns. A little word of caution on out there. Might be a little one-sided there. Over in Italy, Italians are protesting around an American base saying soldiers go home, they don't care who wins the election. This is in the Italian town of Vicenza at the U.S. Dal Molin Army base. The Italian people do not want to have to go through a new world war fought on their soil. None of the ordinary people of Europe want a war. None of the ordinary people of the United States want a war. None of the ordinary people of Russia want a war. The war is desired by the money junkies, the military-industrial complex, and their pet politicians. So, now, here's an interesting little article. I've been joking about wanting to be head of NASA under Donald Trump, and we're already getting indications that Donald Trump is, in fact, going to be turning NASA back to a technology incubator with public-private partnerships, emphasis on human space exploration. We're going to go back into space. And this article I'm looking at The Verge is out there wringing its hands that, oh, they're abandoning the whole global warming thing. How could this happen? How could this happen? Good for Donald Trump. He's doing exactly what I think he should be doing with NASA. Getting on back to the war zones around there. Interesting little article, Russia Today. And according to a leading German think tank, they're recommending the government of Germany to redirect its foreign policy towards more independence from the United States, regardless of who won the election, obviously that being Donald Trump right now. The New World Order is starting to fracture and come apart. And that's why they are in such a panic right now. They have spent decades and billions of dollars trying to create the single global government, and they are very angry that we ordinary people aren't going along with it. They're very angry that after getting all those refugees into Europe, they're not all just hugging each other and kissing each other and sitting around the campfire singing Kumbaya. What's wrong with you people? We're human beings. That's what's wrong. We don't actually behave the way Margaret Mead said we're going to behave. And that's your problem, not ours. Meanwhile, Israel has bombed Syria yet again, hitting Syrian forces in the northern Golan Heights, and claiming that a single projectile fired from Syria into a deserted part that hit absolutely nothing but dirt was the excuse. And we have seen this so many times. When Israel wants to attack somebody, they'll just have an agent provocateur fling something over the fence. Oh, we're under attack. Here's an interesting story. This is from the New York Post. Corporate media is collapsing. The Daily News aims to cut $6 million from the budget as layoffs loom. Some of the layoffs beginning as early as this week. The corporate media has destroyed itself by lying to us, trying to manipulate us, being seen lying and manipulating us. James O'Keefe is out there saying corporate media is now powerless. We've won. The corporate media is no longer in control of the minds of America. Americans are now free to think as they will, to choose as they will, to decide as they will. And that is a threat to the oligarchs who want us asleep and compliant and voting for Hillary Clinton and whatever other brain-dead policies the liberals can think up of. Now, following Donald Trump's victory, the Dow is soaring, gold is up, the U.S. Treasuries are crashing. And it's a very dynamic situation. People are starting to analyze Donald Trump's platform for buy-sell signals. Apparently, a lot of the defense contractor stocks are down because Donald Trump is not promising to take the world into World War III. Gold surges post-Trump, nears heaviest volume day ever. And that's a good thing. You should all be owning some physical silver, physical gold. Forget those paper contracts. Those are worthless, that are leveraged hundreds to one. When the gold run happens, the people with those paper contracts, that's all they're going to be left with. A piece of paper with an impressive-looking number on it. Now then, as I mentioned before, Donald Trump had a meeting with President Obama at the White House. We don't know what they talked about, but apparently right after the meeting, Barack Obama reversed his position on the Trans-Pacific Partnership and declared it as dead and inoperative. So, there's a telling clue as to who was in charge of that meeting. We'll be right back. Hello, Hi, America. Welcome back to the show here. I'm looking at this article, and this came out of Investment Watch blog. Was the invitation by Obama to Donald Trump an attempt to play nice so as not to get in hot water with Trump's future attorney general? Actually, that's not accurate. There is a tradition where the outgoing president invites the incoming president over for a meeting, usually a dinner with the first ladies in attendance. I think that the president who broke that was Eisenhower, refused to meet the outgoing president, Harry Truman, I think it was, and stood him up, which Truman never forgave him for. Now, we've been talking about how all these rioters in the streets, these criminals, these pro-Hillary criminals are out there in violation of the USA Patriot Act. That's not the only law. They're in violation of Title 18, Section 2331, domestic terrorism. Specifically that intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, and so forth and so on. They are criminals. Let us treat them that way. We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now. Kurt in Alberta, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi there. I was just wondering, I don't know if you've talked about it yet, but since Trump has won the election, and he said the unemployment rate is 23% in the United States, which it pretty much is, if you go to shadowstats.com, and he follows everything the way it used to be done. I wonder if Trump will change all the stats the way they really should be done instead of the way they are, so when he takes over, he's not blamed for everything.
I think that would be a very wise thing for him to do, especially because we, the American people, already know the government statistics on everything from unemployment to vaccine safety to global warming are nonsense anyway. What we really need under a Trump administration is a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which is going to be our last chance to reconcile the past with a future United States of America, and just say, all right, yes, past administrations, past government lied to you about this, and this, and this. We're setting the historical record straight. We apologize on behalf of our predecessors for having treated you so shamefully, and we're going to move forward from here. And it would be a smart thing to do. Trump is going to have to deal with the fact that he's got a population deeply distrustful of the government, and the fact that he is the new president isn't going to cure that overnight. He's going to have to do something that demonstrates to the American people that they can trust what's coming out of the Trump administration, whether it's unemployment numbers or whatever. And he better do that real quick, or this honeymoon's going to be over sooner than most presidential honeymoons.
Oh, yeah. If you don't do certain things right away, everybody's going to say you're just the same as everybody else.
Yeah, they're already saying that, especially out there, those people who are looting the stores. But again, as I said, I wasn't campaigning for Donald Trump. I was campaigning against Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, and that's what I was hoping for, too. I mean, she's a warmonger and a criminal that shouldn't have never even been able to get as far as she did, so. But just looking here in Canada, and we're looking at the riots going on down there, and we're going, you're a democratic country?
These are the Democrats who are doing the writing. These are supposed to be the people who believe in democracy, are out there, smashing store windows saying we didn't get what we wanted.
Yeah, I know. So other parts of the world are now coming out with things for their travel advisors and saying, don't go to the States.
Well, I mean, I would have told that to anybody from any other country anyway, for no other reason than you're going to get groped and fondled and irradiated by the TSA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that one I don't like either. But, I was hoping he would win, and I hope he does the right thing. But if he doesn't do a lot of the things right away, he's just one of the other boys in the club then. Well,
he's going to do a lot of things wrong, and the Oval Office is the hottest kitchen in the world. But I guarantee you it's not going to be as bad as it would have been with Hillary in that Oval Office.
Oh, no, I'm hoping not either. Like, I'm hoping he settles things down in Syria and Iraq and Libya and
Absolutely.
brings the soldiers home.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And like somebody else said, put Ron Paul in there, somebody. He's a smart man.
Yeah, I'd like to see Donald Trump get Ron Paul in there as well. Maybe a Cynthia McKinney. I mean, there are some good people out there. They need to be brought on in. All right, well, listen, Kurt, I got to let you go. Got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with more phone calls. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And before we go back to the phones here, there's a very disturbing article that has come out from Jim Stone's website, his deplorable website, he's calling it now. And they're pointing out the fact that even though all the precincts have reported, there are 3 states, Arizona, Michigan, and New Hampshire, that have not formally, officially declared a winner yet in the presidential election. And the concern is that Hillary's people are attempting to force a recount into which additional Hillary fake ballots can be shoved to try and flip those states back to Hillary. That would leave Donald Trump ahead by only 9 electoral votes, which would make an attempt to swap the electoral college vote on December 19th a much easier goal. And we get back to that statement John Podesta made, we're not done yet. And it does appear that the skullduggery is still going on. It really, really is. All right, we're going to go to the phones. Bob in Las Vegas, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I like to second what the previous caller said from Canada about shining a light on the dishonesty of these government statistics. I think President Trump, I think he'd be well advised to perhaps bring in a John Williams of shadowstats.com. I don't know, either within the context of a truth commission or to appoint him to some sort of position where these statistics, these government statistics, especially with respect to the economy, can be more accurate and not politically tinged, so to speak. But, I wanted to ask you, Mike, on these 501c3 groups.
Yes.
Are this designation, does that apply to religious institutions?
Yes.
Now, for example, if you mentioned the priest, I believe it was in New York, that was basically campaigning from the altar, and that violated that status. But if you had a priest or other religious figure who was delivering a sermon from the altar of the church or religious building, and he started condemning the war, the U.S.'s involvement in the war in Syria. Is that a violation of that status?
No, it isn't. In fact, we expect churches to speak out against war generally, although many of them often speak, we have to go get the heathens. The specific prohibition, and by the way, it's not just that one guy. Project Veritas got a whole bunch of these ministers in Indiana to openly admit on tape, we're telling our congregations how to vote here. And basically is they cannot advocate for any candidate in an ongoing election, or it's a violation of their 501c3 status.
Right. I mean, I'm actually a member of the Armenian Church, and I'm very disappointed with the Armenian clergy in this country, considering what's been happening to the Armenian churches and the people in Syria, especially Aleppo. A lot of them have fled to Armenia. Their churches have been desecrated by ISIS with the help of Turkish soldiers. So it's very, very upsetting to me that the priests here in this country aren't saying anything. They've been very, very quiet on the whole issue. But last thing, Mike, can you talk about this whole sanctuary cities? Can you talk about that?
Well, I have to be very honest. I'm not up on all the fine points of the sanctuary cities, except these are cities that are designated to be off limits to any enforcement of immigration laws. And I think this is kind of a ridiculous idea because the immigration laws are the immigration laws, and we have an administration that is openly defying them because of this New World Order agenda of trying to blend everybody all together. And I think that's another reason why Hillary Clinton lost so badly in the election was this idea that we have all seen the federal government isn't obeying their own laws. We're all being told we have to obey this or that various law, but we see that the political elites, the corporate elites, the entertainment elites, they can basically do what they want and nothing happens to them. And that is not a society we want to live in or leave to our children.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how they get away with these laws, these sanctuary cities. Can't a citizen of a city that has these laws take that city to court? I mean, they're violating laws that are on the books.
Well, some groups are trying to take the cities to the courts on this issue. We've seen a lot of these legal battles coming out of Arizona, where Arizona was trying to assert its state's right to enforce its own borders, but they ran up against the so-called supremacy clause that ultimately the federal government is in charge of the international borders.
It's crazy. Okay, thank you so much,
crazy.
Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch to Mo in Florida. Aloha, Mo. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. I appreciate taking my call. I have an observation, and then I have a question, if you'll indulge me.
Yes?
Yes. The observation is, I couldn't help but notice when Hillary gave her, speech where she lost the election. Did you notice they both had the purple? Slick Willie had the purple tie, and she had the purple veil.
Yeah, I did notice it. It's not a color that she normally wears all that much, and a lot of people were commenting on this very weird color that she was wearing.
Well, when you go back, you research it, it's the color of kings and princes. That's the color of the ruling class, the purple.
Yeah, in ancient Rome, only the emperor was allowed to wear purple. Anybody else wore purple, it was a death sentence.
Isn't that just bizarre?
It is bizarre.
I just maybe I wanted to throw up. It just shows you how, like you always said, how just arrogant and removed from reality. But my question to you is, you're one of the few people that call truth to power anymore. I mean, you're a step up from Alex Jones. Believe me, that's a compliment.
Thank you.
Because, yes, well, you know what this is about. I mean, we know what's happening. And with Donald Trump's son-in-law, what's his name, Kurtzner or whatever, and, the Zyocons, I like to call them, I think, they know what's going on, and they got to be in full, operational mode.
They're panicking. They're panicking.
And, I know, don't you think he knows this? And I don't know if he can deal with this because he's married into it.
I don't know how strong that bond of marriage is going to be. I mean, Trump is going to have to deal with the reality of Israel's political influence in this country, but certainly he's less. He's going to be less amenable to it than Hillary Clinton would have been. The Israeli media, of course, all during the campaign was pro-Hillary. We can't work with Donald Trump. Now that he's won the election, Netanyahu's trying to make nice and say, we congratulate you and we look forward to a cooperative relationship in the future. The usual political BS that we see coming on down when everybody's sucking up to the winner.
And if he doesn't obey, what?
Well, again, like I said, Donald Trump is going into office with as many political elements opposed to him as John F. Kennedy, and I certainly hope that Trump's security is really watching their job right now, because I had a little graphic I put at the top of WhatReallyHappened.com meant to be humor, but it does underscore something. If something were to happen to Donald Trump before the Electoral College met, then they're going to be looking at the choice between Hillary Clinton and Mike Pence, and they would probably feel fully justified going with Hillary Clinton at that point.
Mike, one quick other thing, and I'll let you go because I know you got a lot of people waiting, and because you're a very technical guy, with the whole NASA thing and everything, and I always wanted to ask you this question. If somebody was going to take out Trump, when he fills up his jet, and I hope this gets out there, to everybody, because if somebody put some explosive packets in the jet fuel when he fills his plane up, that could be the end of it, right there. I hope they have security on those pumps.
Well, I'm sure they have security on the plane as a whole. I mean, if you put any packets into the fuel tank, they're going to stay there because there are screens on those fuel lines. The fuel lines are actually very small. and difficult to get through. But I mean, you could put thermite on various portions of the aircraft. If you can get to the aircraft, you can sabotage that. Ron Brown certainly found that one out the hard way. But I'm sure that they're taking very good care of his airplane, specifically because in the first part of the year, there was a mysterious malfunction that forced an emergency landing.
Good answer. Thank you, Mike. I'll let your other callers call in. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to switch over to Eric in Gloucester, Massachusetts. I hope I pronounced that correctly. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Honored to speak with you again. First thing real quick, my mom worked for a company called iTech that put the lens in one of the cameras on the Viking lander that you worked with.
Yes, I remember iTech. Well, yeah, they built the whole, they built the camera assembly, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, she actually had the honor at some point in her career to handle the lens. So something that my mom touched is now on Mars.
Well, join the club. Okay.
It's pretty cool. Real quick, I have a construction.
Oh, and by the way, message to your mother: those cameras performed brilliantly. They were great. They never gave us a lick of problems.
I will definitely let her know. We'll listen to the podcast together tomorrow. I have a construction company. I have a crew, and I'm dealing with a situation where, as a anarchist, voluntarist, my thoughts are government is the problem. I do support Trump because I think he's such a great candidate, great ideas, and also it represents the big middle finger to the establishment, which I hope to give.
Yes.
But I'm dealing with guys on my crew that are so anti-Trump that everything since yesterday has been Trump. Oh, my God, can you believe this Trump? Like, how do we reach people now that we're sort of on, I hate to say the victorious side or the majority? Because I don't want to, seem collectivist.
Well, one thing I keep saying, because I had to go through this with a family friend who's absolutely brain dead at this point, and just say, have you ever met Donald Trump? No. How do you know all this stuff about him? Well, I saw it on TV. Is that the same TV told you Saddam had nuclear weapons? And that usually will give them a moment of pause.
It does, and I've found that there's a large cognitive dissonance where people immediately just reject fact. And I've always tried to bring it back, especially with my crew, boss and the guys who got to control the show, that I don't want to offend anyone, but I do need to make the point. Talk to me about issues. You're just talking about what Trump said about grabbing women's. Okay, great, but that's just what he said. Let's talk about policy. Let's talk about his tax plan, his health care plan. Let's talk about the facts. And I still can't reach any of these guys. And I don't want to be divisive. And I think my construction crew is a great metaphor or example of what's going to go on in our country. We've got to pull it together.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask? Are they unionized?
No, we're five guys.
Okay, because I know the unions were fully on board with Hillary, and they were out there, telling all their union members, Donald Trump is the next Hitler, and Hillary Clinton is sweetness and light. Again, we're looking at people who latched onto a candidate early in the campaign. They don't want to admit that they were wrong, and the more and more they become aware that they were wrong, the more defensive they get, to the point where we now have apparently a large pool of people in this country that George Soros is able to whip up into a frenzy and send into the streets to commit acts of violence.
Of course, anyone will do anything when they're paid to do so, and that's what George Soros is doing. Black Lives Matter, the rest of it. Of course.
Well, he's paying the ringleaders. He's paying the ringleaders. He's not paying every single one of them that are out there. But they're going on out, and they're finding these people who were just caught up in the Hillary Clinton personality cult, and they don't care about the facts. They don't care what she's done. They're either caught up in this idea it's time for a woman president, or they've bought into this idea that Donald Trump is a racist and a sexist. Certainly a big part of it are all these illegal immigrants who understand they're on their way out of this country if Donald Trump is president. And so they're all going to go on out there, and once you get a frenzy going, yes, it's going to devolve into looting. We certainly saw that in South Central Los Angeles during the Rodney King riots, and it can spin completely out of control. It's already doing that, and that's actually a good thing, because it's creating a public image of the Hillary Clinton supporters that is not going to garner any public sympathy.
Not at all. And again, on my crew, as a microcosm of this, the guy I was having the discussion with, he got all uppity, and when I called him out on the issues, he had to just walk away. Like, when you confront these, especially the liberal-minded people, with facts and talking about facts, they tend to reject it and throw some sort of spaz and just have to walk away. They can't handle it. And
well, what I learned from my friend over here is that liberals, far from being an intellectual elite, are very narrow-minded. They're caught up in their belief system, and they're arrogant in their ignorance. They're literally walking around saying that if I don't know something, it's not worth knowing. And the fact that you know Hillary Clinton committed all these crimes, it's not important because I don't already know it.
And that makes them dangerous.
It does indeed.
I'm trying to find a way to get over the danger, especially on my crew, and then projecting my crew onto our country, how we do go ahead and find some sense of unity in a very divided nation so we can come together and to make America great again. We can do this together if, we can find a way to, just...
Well, unfortunately, George Soros and Hillary Clinton are intent on keeping the divisiveness going and fanning up the racism, and they're going to make it very, very difficult. It is going to be a very, very long time before the scars from all of this propaganda begin to heal in our population.
I agree, and, for my crew, as an example of it, we had a moment where, I just said, hey, we're going to agree to disagree. Our nation has come to a point where we've all had to evaluate our personal beliefs, our political beliefs, and our beliefs of what we want this nation to be. And I think that's an evolution. And with that, Mike, I'm grateful for everything you do. I'm an avid listener. I'm a supporter of yours. Thank you for what you do. And maybe someday something else you touch can be maybe on Neptune.
Well, something I touched is already out there on the Voyager. So I'm already way past that. But my best to your mother. Thank her for a really great camera system that we had fun with. And we're going to let you go because we got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. A little bit of news before we go back to the phones here. Healthcare stocks are crashing on the stock market. It was a good day overall on the stock market, but the health insurance stocks are crashing because everybody now sees the end of Obamacare. And it's all the fault of Donald Trump. No, actually it isn't. Obamacare was collapsing all on its own. And it was going to go away even if Hillary had stolen the White House. Will go away even if Hillary does steal the White House, which seems to be in play right now. All right, let's go back to the phones. Wes in Idaho, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
First a comment before two questions. Arizona borders came up a moment ago. I want to point out Article 4, Section 4, United States Constitution. The United States shall guarantee, protect every state against invasion and, upon application, protect against domestic violence. My question, the Currency Act of 1751 and Currency Act of 1764 as a cause of the Revolutionary War, shouldn't that have been included somewhere, or is it already included in the Declaration of Independence?
Okay, well, first of all, the Declaration of Independence is a statement of why we are the way we are, and it's not actually considered law that would be introduced into a court of law regarding any kind of a case. The Currency Act of 1764 has unfortunately been overwritten by the Federal Reserve Act because everything the Federal Reserve is now doing would have been a death penalty offense under the Currency Act of 1764. Now, in terms of the idea of invasion until the government declares the flow of illegal immigrants across the border to be an invasion. The idea that Arizona could apply for military support to guard the borders will not apply. The federal government is just saying they're undocumented immigrants, and we will let them in, and you, Arizona, are not allowed to stand in our way. And that's another reason why the people of Arizona are so angry, although apparently not angry enough to vote John McCain out of office, or he, too, is also a beneficiary of all the massive election fraud we're seeing in this country. Anyway, Wes, we're going to let you go here because we're coming up on our top of the hour station identification. And apparently the Senate is now investigating Wells Fargo for retaliating against whistleblowers who've come forward and exposed some of the crimes they are committing against the bank's own customers. The bank's management fired them and blackballed them from the banking industry for life, and apparently did so fraudulently, and now the Senate is starting to take a closer look at that as having been something that Wells Fargo ought not to have done. And I think the reason that Wall Street is so nervous about Donald Trump is he's not going to put up with this nonsense. He's a businessman, and he understands a reputation for fraud is bad for business. We'll be right back after station identification. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here, and we're going to go to Francis in North Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, aloha, Michael.
Aloha, Nunui.
Nunui, to both of you. Have an interesting thought for you in light of the shenanigans that are going on. I recall that after the second or third debate, it may have been in the news media for all I know, if I recall, or it could have been more so than Hillary or whatever, but asking Trump if would he be accepting of any of the results of the election and so forth as a good sport or whatever, and accept them as they are, as they lay, or whatever the case might be, and not have a temper tantrum about it or whatever. Well, you know something? Maybe they asked the wrong person.
Very obviously they did. And I remember early in the debates, Trump said yes, he would accept the results, and he didn't pull back on that position until the election fraud became too obvious to ignore, and Trump was aware that we, the American people, were aware of the election fraud, and he backed off. But absolutely right, after all the exhortation for Donald Trump to quietly accept the results of the election, and now we have Hillary pulling this nonsense.
Yeah. Oh, I do have a funny one for you, though.
Yes.
In light of all these celebrities, or whatever the case might be, their position in Hollywood. Yeah, bad line from a bad film, but it was funny as all get out. You probably know which one I'm talking about, for that matter. It's so long ago. For the celebrities in Hollywood that are claiming that they're going to vacate the U.S. to go to Canada or who knows where, I only have one thought of sentiment for them. Don't let the Golden Gate Bridge kick you on the way out.
It's an interesting little metaphor, but like I said, hey, we can use those gigantic mansions to house a lot of homeless Americans, especially.
Oh, you're hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah, I'm sure those people would love to be living in those homes. We could fit a lot of people in there, actually. Okay?
Oh, my gosh. Whole new revenue.
All right. Well, Francis, thanks.
Have a great one.
Thanks a lot. We're going to switch over to Sherry in Texas. Aloha, Sherry. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thank you, Mike. The guy was talking about what he's going to tell his buddies, and it just came to me that we won the election because we don't want an authority over us. This is the bottom line as far as I can see. We don't want an authority over us. There were no riots when Obama was inaugurated because he was willing to do the bidding of this growing planned globalist empire thing, and they wanted to form an imperfect union under one ruling authority, not us.
Yes.
And I think that we have had 4 years because, thanks to Obama not wanting to go to war, I really think he told them, not during my administration are we going to do what we did under the Bushes. And he
well,
held
wait
off.
a minute. I mean, look how many. First of all, when Obama was campaigning in 2008, he came right on out and said, the first thing I will do as president is end the wars and bring our people home. He never did. He expanded them. He was fully on board the war agenda. The one thing he did not want to do was go up against Russia and China because he's aware that the U.S. right now cannot win a war against Russia and China. He's going to leave that. He was going to leave that for Hillary to have to deal with.
Okay, here is why I say that. Because the Sunday before the election, Mitt Romney did really well during the debates. He didn't have a lot on his plate at the time like Obama did. And he said he wanted to be a powerful, his mission statement, the reason he was running was to be a powerful military force in the world for democracy. And that hit me so hard that I went into a depression through that weekend that was unreal. And that's, almost like I didn't want to feel that way. And Monday morning I woke up absolutely euphoric, and I said, "Oh my God, we're going to be okay." And I just knew it was going to be Obama. If it had been Romney, Mike, and this is why I say I think, just my personal feeling, we would have moved forward from where we are now. Now we had 4 years to wake up. Now we are not moving forward into that war.
Okay,
we would have been
Sherry, here's what's going. I'm sorry, Francis is who I'm talking to. Francis, here's the problem. What they say during the campaign and what they do have no connection with each other. Obama, okay, we're talking to Sherry. Sorry about that. I lost track on the list.
Okay.
Obama promised he was going to end the wars, bring the kids home. He didn't do that. Basically, every single president going back to the 1980s has been pushing forward on this war agenda, trying to get as much done as they can within their term of office and not set anything up so that we're going to lose. And so Bill Clinton started pushing it forward, then George W. Bush pushed it a little more forward, then Barack Obama pushed it a little bit more forward, then they're going to hand it off to Hillary Clinton, who's going to push it forward even a little bit more, however long it takes to bring about this project for the new American century. Donald Trump, of course, is a major roadblock on that because he does not want to go to war with Russia and China. We've already got Vladimir Putin calling him and saying, yeah, let's call it all out. Let's go back to peace through commerce. And so what Romney said and what he was going to do, you have no way of knowing what Romney was going to do based on what he said. And the same thing held true for Obama, and the same thing held true for Hillary Clinton. Sherry, we're going to let you go here because we need to take a second to do a shout-out to our on-air affiliates who are rejoining our network. We're still talking about politics. We're taking phone calls. And I got an email from somebody down in near Sheriff Arpaio who's basically saying that Sheriff Arpaio's opponent got $2 million from Soros to defeat Arpaio and get him out of the way because Arpaio was fighting for the security of Arizona's borders. And Soros wants those borders open. Soros is convinced that if they blend all of the people on Earth together, we're all going to learn to love each other and kiss each other and get along and sing Kumbaya. It's not working out, but Soros isn't ready to admit that he was absolutely flat out wrong, and he's got enough money to keep on making the mischief that he's making all over the world here. All right, we're going to go to Jim in Chicago. Aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Michael, real quick, earlier you mentioned that if Michigan, I think you said New Hampshire, and Arizona goes to Hillary, then there's a 9-point difference between Trump and Hillary. Now, answer this question if you can. What state do you think her demons will go after to make sure Donald Trump really got those electoral colleges?
They're going to have to stay away from the 29 states where state law requires the electors to go with the will of the people. They're going to have to overcome the problem that she has up in Washington State, where those electors who are not constrained by law are saying there's no way they're going to vote for Hillary Clinton. They're going to try and hijack the presidency on December 19th. That seems to be one of their two tactics that they're doing, along with these massive riots in the streets of America. Again, either one of these, they could trigger a revolution or a civil war.
Well, tell me this now. Is it possible that one of those people who need to vote for the Electoral College, could they easily be bribed right now?
We don't know what coercive means could be applied to them. They could be bribed. We know that George Soros was openly talking about buying electors for Hillary Clinton. Again, these kind of maneuvers and bribes and so forth render the entire government illegitimate. If we don't have the president that was elected by the people of the United States of America, by the rules all the candidates agreed to play by, then we don't have a legal, legitimate government. We're not going to listen to them. We're not going to do what they tell us to do. We're not going to pay their bills. And we're not going to sacrifice life and limb of our children in their wars of conquest. Period. End of discussion.
Right. So basically what you're saying is over, but it's not over.
Well, that unfortunately is what it's beginning to look like. John Podesta himself said, we're not done yet, following Hillary Clinton's sort of kind of maybe concession speech. But it looks like she conceded to try and get everybody to relax about what was going on, and then now we're finding out all this skullduggery is going on out of sight of the public in Arizona, Michigan, and Arizona, and at the Electoral College. And possibly these riots are in the streets for no other reason than to provide a distraction while they try and undermine the Electoral College.
Well, do you think John Podesta is using his email right now?
I imagine he's using something somewhere. Right. And I'm sure they've learned their lesson, about using encrypted email. They're not constrained by public records laws anymore once they're outside of the State Department.
Well, that's true. Well, you take care, Michael.
All right, thanks an awful lot, and we're going to have the president that was elected by the people of the United States of America, by the rules all the candidates agreed to play by, then we don't have a legal, legitimate government. We're not going to listen to them. We're not going to do what they tell us to do. We're not going to pay their bills, and we're not going to sacrifice life and limb of our children in their wars of conquest. Period. End of discussion. Okay.
So basically what you're saying is over, but it's not over.
I'm hearing a replay on the line here. Okay, can we shut that off? And we're going to go to Mark in Florida. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha. Thank you. That was a distraction, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on here. I thought I was having an out-of-body experience.
I got 2 or 3 points, but if Hillary won, I was going to Ecuador. If Trump won, I'm buying a sport bike. I love my new sport bike. For the guy that has a crew, Trump, if he made $1 billion, he had to pay out $20 billion to do it. But a lot of people made money if Trump made money. And for his crew, he told them to ask their grandpa how many forms he had to fill out to get a job.
Yeah.
And I think Trump is a plumber, electrician, and he's tired of purchasing permits from politicians to install a toilet.
Yeah, it is a little ridiculous. I mean, I'm actually familiar with the permitting process here in Hawaii because of some of my wife's work here. The permitting system is so screwed up. There are literally consultants you have to hire to go through and get the paperwork done for any modifications to any buildings. And they know where to go, and they've got all the friends and the contacts. They can get things put on the top of piles and on the desks here. And they'll charge $200-300 per day to go on down and get your permits run through. And if you're not using those consultants, it can take you a month to figure out how to get through this whole mess. And we are dealing definitely with regulatory strangulation in order to guarantee jobs to all the nieces and nephews of our politicians.
Exactly. It's insanity. If you want to mow lawns in Florida, it's just insanity what you got to go through to do it.
I'm looking at all those kids who set up lemonade stands who've been shut down because they don't have the permit and they don't have this and they don't have that. When I was a kid, setting up a lemonade stand was a rite of childhood. You know, every kid did it sooner or later. I had a lemonade stand, and it was just part of learning what commerce and business was all about. and now they come on in and they shut it all down. I'm still thinking about that story that we had a while back about these people who get together for a barbecue and they make up a huge amount of food to give to the homeless people, and then the state health inspectors come on in and say, even though you just cooked it and you just ate it yourselves, we're not able to say that this is safe for distribution, and they made them throw all this food into the garbage bin and cover it with bleach so that the homeless couldn't get it. I mean, that is how heartless our governmental system has become.
Well, that brings me to my last point, that the Republican church and the Democratic church and the government employee church that think they're gods and they can order people around, they've got to go. It's so satanic. It's about the best word I could put it. They will kill you for a lemonade stand, just about. If a lemonade stand, if you had it and you tried to run away, you're down on the ground and getting tased.
Yeah,
it's insanity.
It is insanity, and yet they're letting all of these pro-Hillary protesters run rampant all over Oakland. The mayor's already come on out and said, nothing we can do. Windows are getting broken, stores are being looted, cars are being burned up, people are being assaulted and beaten up. We can't do a thing about it here, but by golly, if you've got a lemonade stand, we're going to come down on you real hard.
Hey, thank you, Mike, for all the reading and writing you do. I really appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you. We're going to switch to Ed, Michigan. Aloha, Ed. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Ed, are you there? There you are.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. Hello?
Yes, you're on the air. What is on your mind?
I wrote you in for Supreme Court Justice.
Well, thank you very much for that.
I think you'd make a great Supreme Court Justice, but don't take any all-inclusive trips, though, to clandestine
had not occurred to me. Had not occurred to me to do that, yes. Okay, anything else?
No, just, like I said last night, I think you made a big difference this time around, sir.
Well, I wish we could settle back and congratulate ourselves, but it's very, very obvious that John Podesta meant what he said when he said we're not done yet. And it looks like they're going to try and find some way to overturn the will of the people, either through violence in the streets or bribery and gaming the Electoral College. And it effectively, overall, it delegitimizes the entire U.S. government to see them behaving this way. That's, I mean, the will of the people overcame massive election fraud, but they're not willing to admit defeat. If we can't steal the election at the polling places, we're going to steal it at the Electoral College. And who knows, if they fail to do that, they might just try and do a military coup, march into Washington, D.C. and say, that's it, the old republic is gone, the empire is now established, or who knows what they're going to do. It's a very, very dangerous time here right now. All right, Ed, thank you a lot for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Francis in Vancouver, British Columbia. Aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
Doing fine.
I've got a bit of a problem here today. I was overjoyed, like many of your other listeners, on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, when Trump won. And I'm saying that as someone, I've followed Trump since the People magazine days, and Studio 54, and I never liked him. I always thought he was a slime bag and a liar and a cheater. But I was rooting for him through this whole campaign because I felt that maybe he'd change and maybe he was going to do something good. And though I have to say I had one moment where, like Ann Coulter said, choosing Mike Pence as his vice president candidate was a big mistake. That was his first big mistake. And now I see in the world press is that his choice for leading choice for Secretary of State is none other than the most evil of neocon scumbags, Michael Bolton.
Okay, well, hang on. Francis, hang on. First of all, right now, Trump is just putting together the list. All of his choices are ultimately going to have to go through a confirmation by the Congress. And right now you have a lot of people who are angling for those positions, who are planting stories in the media saying, I am the leading candidate to be Donald Trump's XYZ. So until the list is officially put on out there, what we're seeing is really a great deal of air. So thank you very much for the phone call. call, Francis. We're going to let you go. We're coming up on a commercial break, and we're going to switch over to Mike in Brazil. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Mike, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Yes, I am. It seems we've been cut off for a second or so. Anyway, I was going to ask one simple question. Why isn't George Soros arrested? Why isn't the FBI issuing a warrant for his arrest? And all this rioting that is happening across the country would come to a stop. Because he's funding these organizations which are inciting violence and other things. So I was wondering, where's this guy? I mean, where does he live? Why isn't the FBI after him? Because after all the things that came out about George Soros, he is funding MoveOn.org, he's funding Black Lives Matter, and God knows what other organizations to incite mayhem. So my question is,
here's the problem. Here's the problem, and I'm going to have to take you to the commercial break. The problem is that Soros has not allowed his own hands to become dirty. He is saying, I'm giving money to MoveOn.org to serve this noble purpose, and if they're going out and committing violence, I've got nothing to do with it. It's a bit of an issue. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And, boy, just when you think the bovine excrement cannot get any higher in the flood stage, this is what's coming out of Newsweek. Remember I mentioned earlier there were 3 states that had not officially declared a winner. Even though the New York Times and AP said Donald Trump was way ahead in them, they haven't declared. That's New Hampshire, Michigan, and Arizona. And Newsweek is saying Hillary could still win those 3 states, which would give her 31 electoral votes, which would not be enough to overcome Donald Trump's 279 votes. However, Newsweek has found a political analyst at the University of Florida who says that Donald Trump may not have won Wisconsin. And if Wisconsin is reassigned to Hillary Clinton, they'll be in an electoral college tie at 269 votes each. What a crock this election has turned into. What an absolute crock. John Podesta wasn't kidding when he said we're not done yet. They're still out to steal this thing. They're still out to steal this thing. This has already become worse than Florida 2000. I am so disgusted with the U.S. government right now and our entire U.S. political system. All right, we're going to go back to Mike in Brazil. Mike, aloha. You had something else you wanted to share with us.
Yes, I have. I was thinking, you just mentioned now that Hillary is hell-bent on stealing this election, and probably I have a gut feeling that she will unfortunately succeed. We all know
that'll trigger a civil war. That'll trigger a civil war. You think these whiners and criers in the street, because of Trump are something? You wait till you see the American people who feel that their nation has just been stolen by 2 of the biggest crooks in history, how they're going to react when they get to the streets.
Mike, they're all paid. These people are not out there in the streets of their own volition. They are being paid.
The leaders are being paid.
They're being paid, but they're being paid.
Yeah, they are being paid. The leaders are being paid. The leaders are being paid, but they're able to find, all these whiners and crying liberals who are upset that they're trying to pay off $50,000 in student loan debt with an art history degree.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I was thinking if Hillary manages to pull a fast one with this election. My God, I tell you, this whole country is going to be on the verge of civil war.
It will be civil war. There's going to be no reason not to move forward into outright rebellion against this government. This is so crooked. I can't even believe that they've got the nerve to try this. But that's what it is. They're telegraphing. They're going to take they're going to take these 3 states that are leaning toward Trump, and they're going to say, "Oh, Hillary got them." Then they're going to take one more state that Trump already won and say, "Oh, we've decided Hillary gets it." And then they'll go into the electoral college, and except for those electors up in Washington State, it's a dead heat.
either way, this country is going to be faced with a war. Whether it's a civil war or a racial war, it doesn't matter. It's going to come to punches this time. And you think that Donald Trump supporters are going to stay at home quietly, accepting the theft of the nation? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, well, Mike, thanks for taking my call. That's all I have to say, okay? Take care and have a good day.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. I am just absolutely stunned that they think they're going to be able to get away with this. Remember, earlier in the show, I said there's something funny going on. I mean, in these 3 states, New Hampshire, Michigan, and Arizona, 100% of the precincts have reported, but they're still not officially declaring the states have gone for Donald Trump. And now we find out why. They're going to say, oh, well, we found 5 million new ballots for Hillary Clinton that were just left in a closet next to the ballot counting center. And then they're going to flip Wisconsin and say, oh, well, yeah, we had another 150,000 votes for Hillary just came in at the last second. Somehow we missed them. I mean, this is just absurd. They've made a mockery of the democratic process in this country. They've turned this entire nation into the world's biggest joke with this nonsense. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with more phone calls after these few words. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. I am just absolutely furious that Hillary and her people are still out there thinking they're going to be able to steal the White House. And I'm just angry beyond words. And they're going to start a civil war if they keep on this path here. Now, I just put up another article. This is from Time magazine, saying that even if the Electoral College itself ties with 269 votes each, there is apparently a wrinkle in the rules that would still throw it to Donald Trump. Now, I don't know why this is coming on out, but our entire election system is just this absolute joke that is clearly designed to keep the power in the hands of the established, well, monarchies. Remember that Time, New York Times editorial came out and said we should have a monarchy, and we have Hillary to be our first queen for life. I'm furious. I am just furious at this mockery that they're perpetrating on us all. Hillary stole the primaries. Hillary's lawyers, the DNC lawyers, are admitting it in court to try and head off a class action lawsuit. Yeah, of course we cheated. Put Hillary in. You Sanders people should have known it. And so we're not going to give you your money back. We have seen massive election fraud all across the country in the general election. The will of the people overcame it. And still they're trying to find a way that they can steal that White House. And if Hillary Clinton waltzes into the Oval Office in January, nobody's going to believe she deserves to be there. Nobody's going to believe that she actually won it honestly. She's going to be in charge of a government that's totally discredited, illegitimate, unconstitutional, and illegal, and everybody in America is going to know it. All right, let's grab some phone calls while I try and calm down. Will in Cincinnati, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, I'll tell you what. What I'm doing is I'm telling everybody I know to do your part in helping the media, the dying media, die. It is dying. And the only people who are still paying attention to it are the ones they're catering to. So I'm telling everybody I talk to, turn the TV off, do something, go cook something, go talk, meet your neighbors, go take a cruise, do something with your kids. But let the media die, because it is dying. And I think that they're very aware of the storm that will come if they try to take this now. I think we showed up and we showed them who we are. So I'm pretty sure, I'm telling people not to freak out. You know what I mean?
Well, I got to tell you, it takes a lot to get me to lose my temper, and now they just succeeded. And I'm very, very angry. It's going to take me a long time to. I'm furious at this. This is an insult to the American nation. It's an insult to our Constitution. It's an insult to the American people that they even think that they're going to be able to get away with this nonsense. I mean, the AP and the New York Times have projected Trump the winner in those 3 states, New Hampshire, Arizona, and Michigan. And Newsweek is now saying, well, Hillary's going to get those all of a sudden, and we're going to throw in Wisconsin so that we can even up the Electoral College votes. I mean, it's an absolute shame, and it's a scandal. And it's an insult to every service person who ever laid down their lives thinking they were protecting a republic with a democratically elected government.
Right. I wonder what if we had an actual statistician or someone with a PhD in statistics tell us, out of 100+ million people that voted, what are the chances of it coming down to a 200,000 vote gap? I'm telling you, I think that's very slim.
Well, again, because of the Electoral College, candidates are always tailoring their campaigns to get a slim margin in every state to get those electors, and any time or effort spent in the state after that is wasted. And that's why we get there. But we already know that Hillary Clinton's popular vote totals include the illegal immigrants who weren't supposed to vote. They include a lot of dead voters. An estimated 1.8 million dead people were registered to vote across this country. And all the people who were voting multiple times, which even the New York City Elections Commissioner admitted was going on.
It's a farce. I'm not buying it.
I'm not buying it either. I'm not buying it either. I mean, this is just this is a shame. This is just an absolute shame to see them still trying to do this.
I think if people just turn off their TVs and let the media die, you know.
Well, unfortunately, right now, we got to pay attention to the media because that's how we're finding out what they're trying to do. Like this Newsweek article. Right now we got to watch them as closely as we possibly can. Newsweek put this out there to try and pre-sell the idea that, yeah, this is okay and this is real and this is legitimate. And it's absolutely absurd. They're basically assuming these 3 states that are leaning to Trump are magically going to become Hillary, and then they found this political analyst who are going to say, well, even though Wisconsin has already declared Trump as the winner, I'm pretty sure that it was Hillary, and we're going to give that to her as well and anoint her the empress. I mean, I've never seen such crookedness in our government, certainly during my lifetime, and I think probably throughout our entire history.
Tell you what, this city where I'm at now here in Southwest Ohio is a powder keg ready to blow. People are on edge, and it is ugly.
And that's a shame because Cincinnati's a beautiful city.
Yeah. Just a quick question before I go. Because I do believe that this is going to fade away. I do, and I'm gonna go ahead and operate under that line of thinking. We know that if interest rates go up, it's going to collapse everything. We know it does. We know that. What do you think Donald Trump's take on that is, and how do you think his presidency is going to affect the decision that needs to be made on interest rates?
Well, unfortunately, Donald Trump is inheriting a corner that the nation's economy has already been driven into through years of mismanagement. Donald Trump is not going to want the economy to crash, but unfortunately he doesn't have a lot of options because the attitude for his predecessors has been, let's kick this problem down the road. And they've got all these emergency measures and instant money being created that they have to keep on doing, or the whole thing's going to come apart. And I don't know that, short of, shutting down the Federal Reserve and issuing a whole new government currency and zeroing out the debt, there isn't much that Donald Trump is going to be in a position to be able to do. I know he's talking about firing Janet Yellen. Wall Street's already reacting to that. But he's constrained by the fact that the U.S. government and the U.S. economy as a whole is just buried in this artificially created debt.
Mm-hmm. You think helicopter money might be in the future?
I'm sorry, one more time?
Do you think helicopter money might come into play, like a stimulus package where the people actually get some of the money?
Well, it might be, but certainly if Donald Trump can get the federal government on a business-like footing, they're going to start saving a lot of money. I'm sure Donald Trump is looking over at the Pentagon and trying to figure out what happened to $6 trillion over there, because that $6 trillion would go a long way to fixing the economy of the United States of America, rebuild our factories and so forth. Where did that money go? It went someplace. Let's get it back.
Yeah. Well, Mike, hang in there, buddy. Don't blow a fuse, and keep doing what you're doing. We need you. And I share your show with over 700 people every day. People let me know all the time they're watching. So keep it up, buddy.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Andy in Texas. Aloha, Andy. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, hey, Mike. You just take a deep breath, brother. I know what's going on right now, but just look at all of this rioting and stuff that these people are doing right now. That's just a sure sign that we made the right choice. Okay, we know it's all paid for, bought and paid for. But what I really wanted to call you about was, I was watching the corporate news, and they showed the meeting between Obama, what was in front of the press. I mean, whatever they talked about before, but you could already tell. First of all, Obama had a very hard time saying anything good about Trump. And then when he finally got done and it was Trump's turn, Trump did everything but roll his eyes at this guy. And then he came out and said, well, this is a very good man, Trump. Trump said this about Obama. He said, this is a very good man, and a very, very good man and stuff. And he was just lying. You could see
he's going through the traditional. He's going through the traditional ceremonies, of a peaceful transition of power. Except obviously, it's not very peaceful right now.
No, it's not, and this is all provoked stuff. I mean, these people are making $15, $18 an hour to go out there and do what they're doing and stuff. George Soros is in there, and again, I asked you a while back. I said, where did George Soros get his money? Because he came out of nowhere. I think it was a push of a button. This guy agreed to do what he's doing, and so they just gave him tons of money because, we're on a fiat currency. I mean, they could push a button and send a bunch of money to my account.
No, my understanding is that Soros was involved in some major deals when he was very young of dubious legality and ethics that made his original pile of cash, and he's been very clever about making it grow ever since. There's an old saying in financial circles that first $1 million is the hardest. Once you've got that, you actually have to screw it pretty bad to lose it. And from then on, by using all the tax loopholes and everything, your money is going to grow. And if you're willing to take a few chances, you can make it grow faster. And that appears to be what Soros has been doing. But my problem with Soros is having a lot of money does not give him the right to be playing with our country the way he's been playing, or to play with the world the way he's been playing. He's not elected to be any kind of a ruler, and yet he's arrogating that right to himself, and that needs to stop.
Hey, so these uneducated people who are running around begging for slavery because they want Clinton so bad, aside from that, why would somebody do what they're doing? It's like they're begging to be a slave. Why would these people do this? Mike, are they just brain damaged? Is it the GMO? Is it the fluoride in the water? Are we really at this point where they would beg to be slaves? Because we know if they researched it, if that's their problem, they didn't research anything.
No, they didn't. That's the problem with liberalism. They're given a thing to believe in, and they cling to that. And then they have that air of superiority. I'm on the side of right. I believe this thing that I've been told. And like I said, the attitude that was displayed to me by this liberal family friend is, if I don't know something, it's not important to know. And the fact that you know it doesn't mean that I should show any interest in it whatsoever. They're literally arrogant in their ignorance. And the liberals are not intellectual elites. They're very narrow-minded. They're very insular, and look at the jokes that are coming out of Canada. We don't want the liberals up here because they're all artists and sculptors and dancers and art historians, and that doesn't contribute to the economy of a nation.
So tomorrow morning, Whoopi Goldberg should be gone already. Huh? She's not going to be on The View tomorrow.
Well, now she's claiming she never actually said that. She's actually said, I never said that. Was just somebody made that up about me.
And Hillary Clinton doesn't have a foundation that robbed the Haitians. I got you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. You have a good night.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Rob in Chicago. Aloha, Rob. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I wanted to point out something you may or may not have seen. Obviously, on election night, the markets were collapsing. I always watch the Asian market, opens at 8 o'clock, my time here, Central. And I saw that it was collapsing, and it was in a death spiral. And it ended up, the Nikkei was down almost 950 points, and everything else was 600-800 points. So subsequently, the next day, here we go. We've got, everything's finalizes. And then yesterday, last night, it starts out, all of a sudden, miraculously rebounded 1,000 points on the Nikkei. And so it just appeared it looked so much like somebody just flipped those markets. So they looked like they were going into the sea, going into a death spiral, which would panic everybody not to go to vote for Trump, because, oh my God, now he's gonna, if he's in there, everything's gonna go.
Wouldn't be the first time that happened.
Right. But then one other thing, Mike, I've got information about the Wisconsin, Milwaukee. I work up in Milwaukee, or I work up in Wisconsin, and they're going to have that protest tonight. Well, David Clark does not put up with any of that. He already put the statement out through somebody that he's got, if they're going to block the streets, he's got people with plows and they'll push them off in the ditch. But then my friend called me and said he was leaving work, and they had a school bus surrounded by about 20 cops that they were, investigating at that moment. And I suspected that was some people that were on their joyride up to go start the festival. So I have to honor David Clark as a real man to stand up where the race baiter, as he says, Obama, is not calling out the terrorism as these people are burning cities and stuff. After he says his two-faced little thing about.
Well, I'll tell you this. If enough of those looters get bloodied up, the rest are probably going to go on home. And by the way, I'm being chastised for somebody who's trying to remind me that, we need to look at all the dirty tricks following the Brexit vote, how hard the Remain people have tried to reverse it, fix it, screw around with it. We're seeing exactly the same thing here with the Trump victory. The entrenched oligarchs do not want to give up, and they're going to do whatever it takes to try and steal the White House for Hillary Clinton and try and get us to believe that she somehow deserves it. They're not going to succeed on that last one. They are not going to succeed on that last one, not after pulling these kind of dirty tricks.
No, not at all. And what I'm advising everybody that this is not over. This was one battle. I'm advising everybody as a citizen, it's your job. And I've been empowering them to understand what they need to be doing. I said, eyes and ears. I want everybody watching. I want everybody looking. I want everybody reporting. When you see something bad going on, you call it out. And that's what happened tonight. I got my first report, basically. So I'm proud of the people that they understand that we need to step up and we need to back up the real, legitimate Donald Trump government. So I don't believe they're going to get. They may cause some mayhem, but guess what? They're going to lose if it gets really bad.
All right. Well, I certainly hope you're right, but at this point, I am just absolutely livid that they would even try this kind of nonsense with the American people. We got to take a break for commercials. Back with the last segment of our program after these few words. Aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And I'm getting emails from all over the place and basically saying that citizens of these three states, Arizona, Michigan, New Hampshire, need to call their Secretary of State now and say, what the heck is going on? And I got an email from somebody who just called the Secretary of State of Arizona and say, why haven't you declared a winner? The person who answered the phone said they have until December 5th to declare an official winner. And he said state statute gives them 10 calendar days to count the provisional votes. Well, that only takes them to the 18th. And then the person went on a bunch of legal mumbo-jumbo and apparently hung up. And so this listener wants to share with you the phone number for the Office of the Secretary of State of Arizona. And then grab a pencil, write this one down, 602-542-8683. That's 602-542-8683. If you are a citizen of Arizona, you have a right to call and ask what the heck is going on. Same thing with New Hampshire, same thing with Michigan. You should be insulted that they're trying this. And yes, John in Barbados is reminding me, he said they were going to do this just like they did with the Brexit. I'm absolutely furious. Story just came on out. Apparently at this school in Stafford, Texas, they held a mock election, and a student who admitted voting for Trump in the school's mock election was attacked by his classmates and put on crutches. It's like our schools are producing the new Nazi youth corps. We are in serious, serious trouble here, people. All right, let's grab a quick phone call. Bernard in Vancouver, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what you're talking about, but I was interested to hear that interruption there a while ago. Did you happen to notice what it was?
Well, it was a replay of something I had just said, and I don't know what happened, something in the control room. But it was a replay of what I said. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it might have been some kind of hacking or sabotage. No, I heard somewhere that Soros had bragged that this was before the actual voting day that Trump could get a landslide, but they're going to take care of things at the college. You know. So
yeah, I heard that as well, and it looks like he definitely met his word. But he could trigger a civil war in this country with this kind of stuff. You know, and he's not an elected leader of our people. This is not democracy. He's an oligarch. And he's out here messing with our country, and it's going to cost a lot of lives because he's already cost a lot of lives all over Europe and the Middle East. And he thinks this is all fun and games, and it's okay for him to do this because he's got all this money. Soros has become the biggest argument for socialism I can think of, by demonstrating what individuals with way too much money are capable of doing to a society.
Well, he could really hit on something important. That's the first I heard it mentioned, so good for you guys and your audience. And I think that purple thing, I just saw that on TV. I think that's they call it a whistle. They're just putting out the symbol that she's, still the queen or will be or something like that. So anyway, I think you're the real media. The real story is the corporate media is just a bunch of stooges.
Well, we're gonna have to let you go. I'm gonna have to cut you off. I apologize, but there's the music. It's time for the show to end. I am furious, and you should be too. You need to copy this story off the front page of WhatReallyHappened.com and send it to everybody that you know under the headline: Hillary still trying to steal the White House. We must stop it now. And if you live in those states that haven't declared, get on the phone to the Secretary of State and get on their case. Let them know that we know what they're up to. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.